Now the question is, how do we get started with this project though? And there are different ways. It's of course up to you which approach you prefer, but I personally like to get started with my pages. That gives the project a general structure, and I can then plan my other components around those pages which we need. So I'll start in this pages folder. And here for this blog, we need a couple of pages. We need the starting page, which shows the featured blog posts and our little welcome screen. We need the contact page, which shows that form users can fill out. We need the page for all the blog posts. And we need the individual blog post page. And therefore, in the pages folder, I'll start with the starting page by adding an index.js file in the pages folder. Now in there, we can create our homepage component function and export that as a default here, like this. Now I'll copy that basic code because I'll create functions in the same way in the other pages. For example, in the contact page, we also need that, and hence we can add a contact.js file here in the pages folder. Now you learned that the alternative would be to add a contact folder with an index.js file in there. It's up to you which approach you prefer. I will go for the contact.js file and just add my component in there, the contact page, like this. Then we also have our post-specific pages. And for that, I'll create a subfolder because there I'll also need a nested route with a dynamic segment. However, I'll start with a different page, a different route, and that's the all posts page. For this, we could add a posts folder and then an index.js file in there. And that page will then be loaded for requests targeting our domain /posts/nothing. So here we have the all posts page, like this. Then we have the page for a single post. So when we click on a post, the page that shows that single post, and that page is dynamic. It should have a dynamic parameter in the URL which identifies that post, something like the post ID. And therefore, we could add a ID.js file with ID in square brackets because you learned that this sets up a dynamic page in Next.js, which is loaded for different requests with different IDs in the URL. And we can then extract the concrete value that was provided for a given request from inside that page. That would work, but I don't want to work with an ID here. Now, of course, the identifier name here is totally up to you, but you should name it such that it reflects which kind of value you'll extract. And I don't want an ID here, because if we had an ID, if we do that for a second, then we would load a single post for something like /posts/p1, p2, p3, and so on, if p1, p2, p3 are our IDs. And whilst this would work, it's not very human readable and also not search engine friendly. It would be better to have URLs like /posts/getting-started with Next.js if our URLs would look something like this. Now this thing here is called a slug. That's what we typically call a slug. It's also a unique identifier. We could call it a unique ID therefore, but it is called a slug, and it's basically a human readable sentence without white space, without special characters, simply with words separated by dashes. And hence here, I want to extract such a slug from my URL, and I expect that I do get these slug identifiers for the individual posts to have these human readable and search engine friendly URLs in the end. And that is then the single post page or the post detail page, however you want to call it. Now these are the 4 main pages which this project needs. Of course, definitely feel free to add more pages It's also your project after all, and you can enhance it however you want. But these are the 4 pages with which I want to get started in this project here.